Welcome to the Daily Hit on the website scootontheair.com. We're also on Scoot on the Air on YouTube. I'm Scoot. Glad you're with us. So the city of New Orleans, the Gulf South, the Hoodad Nation will be partying tomorrow. The Saints are not in the Super Bowl, and we believe they should be, but we're going to party anyway. And you got to love this place. I'll get to that here in just a moment, but it's a really interesting phenomenon how, it doesn't take much to get us to party in New Orleans. And so, we'll be partying during the Super Bowl, even though the Saints are not in it. All right, get to that in just a moment. I thought it was interesting during a press conference. In fact, since we've been spending so much time here in New Orleans and on scootontheair.com talking about the NFL being a scam and talking about the missed call and the horrific cover-up from Roger Goodell in the NFL, we've missed talking about things like President Trump. And there has been so much that's been going on. John Roberts, a reporter for Fox News, sat down with an interview with the president in the Oval Office. And John Roberts, first of all, John Roberts said something about President Trump, and President Trump attacked John Roberts, saying that he really, didn't understand border negotiations any more than the fake news, CNN and NBC, for example. So John Roberts with Fox News sits down with the president in the Oval Office and gets President Trump to admit that his wall will not stop caravans of people from coming into the United States. And here's what's interesting. The border for the United States and Mexico is like in the middle of the Rio Grande River. So you're not going to build a wall in the middle of the river. In fact, in some cases, the wall is going to be built maybe a mile back from the U.S. border. Well, John Roberts got President Trump to admit that once you step foot on American soil, you're in. The president said, when John Roberts says, so the wall doesn't really solve the problem, the president said, yeah, you're right. Touch the land, and all of a sudden, it's catch and release deal. So think about it. All this talk, all those, the wall's going to stop. Technically, legally, the wall's not going to stop people from touching U.S. soil, and that's when the issue begins. Also in the news, I'm sure you've heard that former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz looks like he may be running for president as an independent centrist. So Howard Schultz, by running as an independent, may just cause President Trump to be reelected in 2020. And so a lot of people, a lot of Democrats are calling for a boycott of Starbucks. I mean, even though Howard Schultz is no longer CEO, he built the brand globally. So they're calling for a boycott of Starbucks if Howard Schultz decides to run for president out of fear that a Schultz candidacy as an independent would help reelect President Trump. Okay, let's get to this party city that I live in. I'm coming to you from my apartment in downtown New Orleans. I look out of the window here and I see the rooftops of the French Quarter of New Orleans. Great party place. So depressed, so disappointed over that missed call, which has caused a lot of suspicion about the integrity of the NFL in the game between the Saints and the Rams, the NFC Championship game. So depressed over that, what do? We party. There will be parties going on. I mean, huge parties and concerts and stuff going on in the city tomorrow during the Super Bowl. In fact, there's a Boycott the Bowl concert at Fulton Street in downtown New Orleans. And the concert sold out. Sold out. And Cowboy Mouth and Rockin' Doopsie Jr. and the Vets and Dash Rip Rock, all these bands are performing sold out almost instantly. There are a couple of second line parades and jazz funeral type parades going through the streets of New Orleans tomorrow as well. There's the blackout and gold second line parade. And there'll be jazz bands and there'll be people. I mean, people are going to be in the streets of New Orleans. And for those of you listening and watching around the country, you're going to see this on the news. This will get a lot of attention. And this is going to continue to solidify this idea that the Saints should have been in the Super Bowl. And I'm not a whiner, I'm not a crier, but the evidence is there. And not only that, but the way Roger Goodell and the NFL has handled this just leads me to further believe that there really is something to hide. First of all, let's go back to the press conference. Roger Goodell's annual press conference, Super Bowl week in Atlanta on Wednesday. Goodell said, I've talked to Coach Payton. He said, well, I understand the frustrations of Saints fans. He said, I've talked, now listen carefully, because I'm going to really say this pretty much the way he said it. He said, I've talked to Coach Payton, the players, no, let's see. I've talked to Coach Payton, the team, the players, and I understand their frustration. Okay, wait. He said he talked to the coach and the team, but he didn't. Because players, including Drew Brees, say Roger Goodell never talked to them. So what does the NFL do? The NFL issues a statement, a written statement, changing the grammar of what he said to cover up what he said. Because now the NFL is saying Roger Goodell did not say he talked to the players. He said that in the press conference. That was a lie. And now they're lying about the lie. Because in the printed statement from the NFL, they put a period. They conveniently put a period after Roger Goodell says, the transcript would say, I've talked to Coach Payton, period. The team, players, I understand their frustration. That period is bogus because it's that period that distinguishes Coach Payton from the players. But when he was talking, and the verbatim translation is Roger Goodell saying, I've talked to the players? No, I'm just trying to remember this from my memory. He said in the press conference, I've talked to Coach Payton, the team, the players. See, it was the I've talked to Coach Payton, the players. The was just giving him a moment to continue his thought. So putting a period there is a total cover-up on the part of the NFL. And you know, when somebody does something wrong and doesn't admit it and then they cover up, that's the worst thing. I mean, let's go back to something so obvious as Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. What Bill Clinton did with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office may be disgusting to you. It may be disrespectful to you, but it wasn't against the law. President Clinton got in trouble because he lied about it and he covered it up. And so if Roger Goodell is so innocent, if the NFL is so innocent of the charges that there might be some kind of subtle manipulation to get one team in the Super Bowl over another team, if he's so innocent of all of that, then why this cover up? And why lie about talking to the players? He lied, and now they cover up the lie. So anyway, going back to the celebrations and what this is going to look like on television. You know, the nature of news is to always capture the outrageous things that happen and the outrageousness within whatever's happening. I mean, that's just the nature of news. So with all of the attention that's going to be paid to the Super Bowl and coverage of the Super Bowl and all of that, I guarantee that there's going to be massive national coverage of the parties that are going on in New Orleans during the Super Bowl. And this is going to remind America the injustice and the fact that the NFL has got to find a way to change the rules to the point where a blown call does not determine the outcome of an important game. Blown calls, no calls, part of the game. But the goal is to get it right. And so why not get it right with instant replay? Why not get it right? You know, they try to get it so right when they did the ball cross the plane. Did his knee touch? Did his elbow touch before the ball crossed the plane? Did he cross the plane? It's so important to get that right that they'll go over replay after replay after replay. They'll delay the game for a long time to figure it out. So why not use that same technology and that same attitude about getting it right? Why not use that when it comes to something as important as that call? Which leads us to believe that while it may not be overt, it may not be totally organized. If nothing else, there appears to be ways to subtly favor one team over another team. And we've gone over this a lot. The reasons why the NFL wanted the Rams in the Super Bowl and not the Saints. Well, first of all, the Rams don't have a real solid fan base in LA. I'm not saying they don't have diehard fans, but they don't have a real fan base in LA. They built a brand new stadium, and that's what Roger Goodell loves. Roger Goodell loves the cities that build brand new stadiums because these stadiums become a monument. They become monuments to his empire. And so he wants to help. He will help anybody that builds a new stadium. And there was pressure on New Orleans a few years back when a bid for the Super Bowl was up. Questions about New Orleans possibly building a new stadium in order to get the next Super Bowl. We didn't get that Super Bowl, but we got another one. And it was if Roger Goodell wanted to pay back the cities that build new stadiums, almost pressuring New Orleans to get rid of the Mercedes-Benz Superdome and build a new stadium. Our stadium is not the highest tech dome. Boy, it sure was when it was built. It sure was. But it's still a great place to watch a game. And there's no need to build another dome because the dome that we have here in New Orleans is more than adequate. And they're constantly making updates and renovations. But that's not what Roger Goodell wants. He wants new stadiums. Who has a new stadium? Los Angeles, for the Chargers and for the Rams. And there's so much going on in LA. LA is a big basketball city, as you know. And so if the Rams made it to the Super Bowl over the Saints, that would help reward Los Angeles for building a big stadium, brand new stadium. It would also maybe help build the fan base in LA. And guess who benefits from that? The entire NFL. All of the owners benefit. Roger Goodell has done a really great job for the owners. They're making tons and tons of money. He's done a good job elevating the NFL to just a new level in terms of making money. It is the owners that determine whether or not Roger Goodell has a job. So as much as you and me hate Roger Goodell and think he's in some ways a high-profile scam artist, the owners are making tons of money, so they may support him through this controversy. And to me, if you think of money over the integrity of the game, then you're making a big mistake, and ultimately, you may lose in the long run. If the idea is to make a lot of money, if the integrity of the game comes under question, that's when I think the owners will start losing money. Because if the NFL develops this image even slightly, that it's like WWE wrestling, the NFL will lose. Because up to this point, it has been seen as an honest game where humans make mistakes, but it's been seen as an honest game. So let's see what happens at the owners' meeting. Let's see what happens when the Rules Committee gets together. I would not be surprised if the NFL does nothing, but I think there's going to be so much pressure on the NFL that they will make a change. They'll make some kind of slight change when it comes to penalties late in the game or being able to review a call or no call. I think that's going to happen. But again, I won't be shocked if it doesn't happen. So in order to protect the empire, Roger Goodell may be doing things that cause us to question the integrity of the game. But watch and see how much attention all of these parties, the concert downtown, the second line parades through the streets. There's a place, Rock and Bowl. It's a bowling alley rock venue, a really cool place in mid-city New Orleans. And they're going to replay the 2010 Super Bowl when the Saints beat the Indianapolis Colts in Miami. They're going to replay that game. And that place is going to be packed. People are going to be there watching a replay of the Saints in the Super Bowl in 2010 against the Indianapolis Colts. And then right after that, a great rock band here in New Orleans, Bag of Donuts, is going to perform. And there are other bars and other locations that are showing the replay of the Super Bowl the Saints were in. I'll talk more about this as time goes on, but as discouraging and depressing as all of this is for Saints fans, I think there could be something positive that comes from this. We unite in victory. We celebrate and unite in victory. But what happened to the Saints and the way it happened is causing us to unite. And the Saints over the years as a team, even under Sean Payton and Drew Brees, the Saints have not always had a killer instinct. And sometimes they have, but they haven't always had a killer instinct. There have been many times that the Saints could put games away and they didn't. And I watched this over and over and over. But I'm wondering if this injustice is going to cause the mentality of this team and this coach to change. I mean, I sense that next year, the Saints may have that killer instinct for every game. And one thought is to so dominate teams that one call will never change the outcome of a game. Let's see. I think that's a positive thing. I think fans are going to become more rabid than ever. I mean, fans are going to be crazy. And I think this team may just unite behind this controversy. But let's see how much coverage all of this partying in New Orleans gets during the Super Bowl. A lot of people here are simply not going to watch. And I got to tell you, if you look at it on paper, the New England Patriots with their iconic quarterback, Tom Brady, and Jared Goff, a young quarterback, a new team, young coach, Belichick, Brady, Sean McVay, new coach, young quarterback. This is a great setup. This is a great drama. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention the other reason the NFL might not want the Saints to be in the Super Bowl. To protect Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, who built a brand new stadium. In fact, the Super Bowl is going to be played in a brand new stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. It would have been absolutely humiliating for Falcons fans and for the Falcons owner to have the Saints play in a Super Bowl in their new home stadium. Another reason the NFL may not have wanted the Saints to be in the Super Bowl. So anyway, there'll be fun parties here. And I know what I'm saying. The game itself, this is a great matchup. And ordinarily, I would be watching, and many of you would be watching, and many of you will still watch. Super Bowl weekend in New Orleans is part of Americana. It's a reason to get together and celebrate and have parties. The commercials, the halftime show, and there was controversy over Maroon 5 being in the halftime show, with calls for them to pull out because of the way the NFL handled Colin Kaepernick. I'm not exactly sure that connection, but there were people who called on Maroon 5 to pull out. And the NFL canceled the traditional press conference with the halftime show, the halftime artist, and the media canceled it because they didn't want questions about Colin Kaepernick to come up, and they didn't want questions about Maroon 5 performing and not pulling out of the Super Bowl. So they canceled that. And this is the way Roger Goodell handles controversy. So anyway, what would ordinarily be just a great weekend of like parties being set up and people buying food and beverages, inviting family and friends over and getting together and watching the Super Bowl on Sunday here in New Orleans. Oh, there'll be a lot of parties. There'll be a lot of people partying, but it will be to avoid the Super Bowl. It will be in place of the Super Bowl, and many of them will be during the Super Bowl. I'm Scoot. Thanks for being with us here on our website, scootontheair.com. And this is the Daily Hit. And we do this every Monday through Saturday, usually posted between 9 and 10 Central. We're a little bit late today, but usually posted between 9 and 10 Central Time, New Orleans time. And so, we want this to become a destination. Go to scootontheair.com every day. We want this to be a destination for you, and we're going to expand into other areas, but we want this website to become a destination for you. And a way to, get an interesting take on some of the news stories. I am a registered independent. I'm a maverick moderate.